This is episode 345 of the Gold Squadron podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Will. Don't let your gloom evolve into a vile plume. Hegwood, and tonight I'm joined by Marcel. There's no place like home, Manzano.
So I played X-Wing in many places, and there's no place like home.
We also have Ryan, last stretch before World Staniszewski.
Basically, after the month of January, which is done in 2 or 3 days, we have no more official events to input to get people invites. So then it's just grind out those reps and games and practice up to Worlds.
Yes, indeed. And also, James, back from the dead, Ritter.
Mostly back from the dead. Still a little bit of a sore throat, but I'm alive.
Well, glad to hear it. I do want to, of course, start every podcast by thanking our largest group of supporters, our GSB Patreons. You get cool stuff for helping us get to these awesome tournaments and do the things we do. There's special channels on our Discord. There's shareable art from our past projects. There's levels for every person. All you gotta do is check out patreon.com/goldsquadron. All right, so headlines here. Warning before we start our faction breakdown tonight. The AMG Worlds invitees. We're pretty much done. There shouldn't be any events happening like now or Monday or whatever. So if you did a world qualifying event like a store championship, you need to make sure that you're registered for that Worlds one day. If you can't sign up, if you can't go to adepticon.org and sign up for the Worlds main event day one, you need to double check not only did the store send an email as appropriately, and if they have, you can still message. I'll say that again. Double check Adepticon.org and the store that they sent it out as well. And if neither one of those things are true, then email op@atomicmassgames.com. Please do it quickly because there's not much time left. You got to be registered soon.
op@atomicmassgames.com. But again, as Will said, check all parties that would be involved in communicating that and submitting that Google form. The TO or EO who ran your event, the event itself or the store itself. Check your emails, all levels of them for this email that went out to everyone today. And if you don't see the ability to do Adepticon and be able to sign up for World's Day 1 main event, and you expect it to, and you vet everything, op@atomicmassgames.com. Please don't spam them. Make sure you vet everything as possible first.
Yeah, one clear email. I know they're still working through it. A lot of people haven't been able to do that yet, but definitely check on that if you are registering for the main event at Worlds. It's coming so soon. We've been talking about it forever, and here it's just coming over the horizons. We closed out the last World Open qualifier, the Australian one, over the weekend. And mini store championships getting in underneath that deadline as well. So a very exciting time for X-Wing. But we wanted to...
How did you do?
Okay. Let's do some real talk here.
Okay.
So I went to a store championship. I had a great time out in Medford, Wisconsin. I drew my first game. I got pretty lucky, I would say, between like Road and Kylo's Torps. I was flying Doug's List as a note because I couldn't find. My X-Wing stuff is a mess right now, so I just flew Doug's List because I already had my first order kind of set out from before I was running Empire. Anyway, so first round tie, very close game against some Rebel Alpha, and then second game, Road and like Kylo's Torps were just in my favor all game, and got a clear victory against another FO. Then third round, I tied as well. This coordinating Poe coordinated Elo out of a block, or like over a ship, if that makes sense. He blocked a ship and then coordinated boosted over it. And my Kylo was jammed from BB-8, had a damaged engine from BB-8. Kylo was having troubles with this BB-8, and of course variable timing. So I didn't know how much time was left in the round, so I couldn't barrel roll in behind a rock to kind of hide myself. So I was a little bit exposed out in the open, assuming that we might have another round or so. So he does this awesome thing where he coordinates with his Poe. Elo and Kylo destroy each other, and I tie that game as well. So at 1-2-0, and like in the very bottom of the bracket. And then my last game, very good player Aaron out of Wisconsin. He has the 6 ship beef, 2 Y-wings, 3 arcs, and a Z, and we're playing assault. So kind of threw my hands up in the air and said, I'll try my best. But it was unlikely for me to get into the we were doing top 4 cut afterwards. Just because we had over 16 players, which was very exciting. A lot of the Minnesota, Wisconsin, and even a lot of Illinois players made it out. So I had a great time. New players were there trying out list, but the competition was very high. Yeah, I had an exciting time. Marcel, you also ran a store championship this weekend. How'd that go?
Good. Yeah, we put it together in 2 weeks. Basically, we had a store nearby that had a store kit that wasn't able to do it because other games already had the weekends reserved at their spot. So I offered our place here, and we were able to get all 16 people signed up in 2 weeks. They showed up. And Dan McGinn, who's run like the Grognard games before, he had all the magic for doing like the roll better stuff, and people brought in like folding tables, and then the store that that we hosted it for gave us all their like table boards or whatever, like the
Table toppers. Yeah,
the table topper, so that there's enough space. Great event. 4 rounds. Alex Foles won it, and Alex is local 312. He's part of the 312 group from Nick Sperry's side, and I think he said it was his first even like any tournament ever won. So super excited for him. So he's got an invite. Well, hopefully he's got an invite. The store has to submit it today, so hopefully they did. If not, he's got a cool little useless paper that says he's got an invite. If they didn't submit it on time, I think they can still submit it tomorrow or something like that, right?
they have until
Like the 30th or 31st.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
sooner than later.
yeah, but it was a really good time. Like I said, we had 16 people show up, and then we had like an extra 10 or 12 people to show up for like non X-Wing board games. That we just made a day out of it. So it was a good time. William was one of the 16 people that he opened the door for one of them because he had a spot, but he decided to go to Wisconsin. See, if he would have came here, maybe you might have.
Turns out maybe you could make these plans in the more than 2 weeks ahead of time.
Oh, that was kind of like an emergency thing. Like, hey, we got this thing, and there's a deadline.
No, I get it. It sounded real fun.
Yeah. But yeah, it was a good time.
I did want to shout out the eventual winner. Tony did pull it off with a sensitive, controlled Soontir. Isn't that crazy? I almost put sensitive controls on my Kylo. I wish I would have. But yeah, pretty awesome.
Yeah, I think yeah, he did resistance beef, so he won with like a bunch of T70s.
Okay. No A-Wings. That's not BV.
Oh, he had Lulo. He did have Lulo.
Okay.
So
A little
yeah,
beef. Oh,
that,
that's that filet mignon out on
yeah,
that
yeah.
beef, you know.
Mhm.
All right. So we were talking a lot about what we should do leading up to Worlds, and what we want to split it into factions. So this week we're going to start with Republic, and then what do we say? First Order and Resistance in the following weeks. Let us know if what inputs you have on our Discord, of course, for those other factions. Maybe something we should cover for them. But this week we're covering Republic, and then, like I said, we'll go First Order Resistance, and then I think that's when Battle of Yavin is coming out.
Endor.
Oh, Yavin, yeah,
Battle over and
Endor.
yeah.
Battle
We're saving
over.
Empire and Rebel till after that comes out.
Yes.
Maybe if we get any more of those wrinkles from Endor, can adjust our topics of
Mm.
discussion for Rebel and Empire.
Yeah, because we'll have some like points on their street dates and everything. So I'll be looking forward to that, but not until after that's released. In the meantime, we're going to cover those factions not included in that expansion, and I'm trying to work with Wade Pouchet to lock down a date when he could come on, talk about Aerodome. That's another great game that's going to be at Adepticon. He's holding tournaments. He's got a whole plan for his organized play. If you don't know about Aerodome, it's a dogfighting game, but it's one-on-one. Your ship, your single ship versus their single ship. So similar to X-Wing, but very very much different. Got its own vibe going on. But it is a amazing game. I want to do like an unboxing video as well, as I want to pick apart. I have it around here somewhere, but I'm very excited. Oh, the artwork on it looks so cool. So we were talking a little bit about that, just to get some other ideas of what we could be doing at Adepticon, other than just X-Wing. But anyways, this week we're gonna start with Republic, the clone and Jedi boogeymen out there. Ryan, you've broken it down by the numbers, so I'll let you start us off here about the Republic faction.
Yeah, and to kind of put this overall into context, when we're going over each faction, this is things you should expect to prep for. This is not generally when we're going to be talking about these factions and their archetypes. It's not going to be what you should be playing in them or what someone should be doing with them. This is you're across the table from them. This is prep you're doing expecting to play against them. Things that you should be aware of, things that you should expect or not expect, things to do in certain scenarios, turn zero, obstacles, everything that we can think of that translates well into an audio format with some maybe visual aids that we tag and add into the description. So think of all this as you're sitting across the table from a prospective Republic player at Worlds, which you're likely going to see. So, with that in mind, the first thing we can kind of go over is like by the numbers, what is the faction doing right now? Not as performance, but like overall, Republic is taking up from the points update about 13.3% of the meta. So, in context, that is the fourth most popular faction right now. Rebels, Empire, and Resistance ahead of them. The most commonly brought list in all of Republic since the points update back in May or June is the Trip Arcs Padme Anakin. But that still only makes up, out of all the lists in the game, only 2.28% of the entire meta, right? So, what does that mean? If you go to Worlds, right, and you face a Republic list, technically it's more likely you're going to face a Trip Arc Padme Anakin. But that percentage is so small because there's a lot of different Republic archetypes people are trying, both since the last points update and within the last 3 months. A lot of these data points are provided by Pattern Analyzer in their Insights page and Compositions page, which were recently revamped. Great stuff. And the numbers only slightly shift downward in both Republic overall and the Trip Arc Padme Anakin overall, how much they're being taken in the overall meta. So the nice thing is with a 10 round Swiss at Worlds, these numbers are really easy to break down. So in 10 rounds, based on Republic overall being anywhere from like high 12% to low 13% of the meta, you're going to play against 1 to 2 Republic lists in the entire day. That's what you should generally expect. And it could, because the most popular lists or archetype is such a small percentage and there's so many variations being tried right now, both in 6 ship, in 5 ship, in even 4 ship, that it could be anything that you're seeing across the table from you. So just know that at Worlds, you're probably going to face 1 to 2 Republic lists, and it could be a variety of things. But there are things that they have in common, and we'll go over that. Maybe James, if you want to start with the list of most common Republic archetypes overall, and what are the common points between them.
Sure. Yeah, I think the main Republic archetypes that we've seen have definitely been the triple arc Padme and Siege Coruscant Anakin, that was popularized by was that Paul Heaver?
Yeah, he was the
At
first, and
Texas,
then Tyler. So he won Texas, and then Tyler won Gen
right?
Con with it.
Right. So I think this was coming out of like Big Han meta. This came out and was supposed to be the silver bullet, but it wasn't really. It was just a list that did okay against it, and won some events, and really caught the eye of a lot of players that were looking for where to land on Republic. So we've definitely seen a ton of the triple arc Padme Siege Course Anakin. So it's Jag, Wolf, and Oddball. And Padme has those torpedoes and the Siege Coruscant standard loadout Anakin. So you'll definitely see that at the event. Whether you'll see it in your games, like Ryan said, it may be you may not see it, but this is definitely something you need to know about because Padme can really ruin your day if you don't know what she does. So at least read her card once or twice. Ask her questions. Well, how does this ship work? And take a look at a couple of different ways that you can avoid it. Mainly, just don't be in front of her. We also have Anakin 7B, 2 arc contrail and booster slider in that 2 point Z, which is less of an archetype that we've seen, but it is still a strong one. 7B Anakin out there is a strong piece, and at least 2 arcs is a good start to a list. We've seen a couple of different Republic 6 ships. The triple arc version usually brings those 2 3-point ships. I think Will was talking about earlier. Some people reach for the 2 Y wings or the 2 V wings or a mix of both, and then a 2-point Z. Another one, instead of the 3 arcs, you take 2 arcs with 4 3-point ships. So you'll either see the triple 4-point ships 3-3-2, or you'll see 2 4-point ships and 4 3s. So those are the main 6 Republic archetypes you'll see. There's also that I've seen floating around is the 2 Jedi and 2 Arc list. But as you can probably ascertain from just going over the couple of the different archetypes that you may see, almost all of them are going to have, or all of them really are going to have at least 2 Arc 170s, and most of them will have 3. So, keep keep that in mind that you will see medium bases with those ARC 170s that do shoot front back with their veteran tail gunners. So they do have more shots if they can get into the thick of it. So you have to use the tools available to you to try to avoid those front back shots and to either out joust it or out dodge it.
Yeah, I'd say that yeah, it's good overall um, summarization of it. And yeah, so the commonality is arcs, at least two. Very rare do we not see at two. Like there's some lists with one. Marcel, you are someone I think that's played with a single arc in your list before.
Yeah.
Okay, what
Yeah,
has been
just
your
with oddball.
experience with that? Did you like it? Did you think it's something that has legs? Is it two arcs or nothing?
No, I mean I enjoyed it. I won a store champ with it, and I made a cut at Gen Con with it, so it could be successful. I was flying 7B Anakin, oddball. Um, I had Rick, and then Click and Slider. Um, Rick is situational, so I found that when I played Wolf, like at LVO, I swapped out Rick for Wolf, so I went the 2 arc route. Not Contrail though. I always like Click because I always want to be able to do that, deny that range bonus. But with Wolf, I found the offense to be I found the strategy, not the offense. I found the strategy to be a little bit more predictable, but also I found that my opponent also had it made me more predictable. Like I had a more with Rick, or even if I were to swap Rick out and do like Padme, or do you know a Jedi or something else in that spot, or even anything else, a Jedi, maybe Obi-Wan or whatever, that having those other ships, any of those other ships gave me a little bit of unpredictability on the board, where the opponent didn't quite know what I was going to do. But when I had the 2 arcs on there, the opponent was better prepared for it. They kind of knew what I was, they had an idea of what to go for, uh, and I had a better idea of like what my, how much value I was going to get out of that 4-pointer. Like I knew he was going to put out damage. I knew he was going to soak up damage. I knew he was going to hit certain objectives. Like there was a level of predictability. Ultimately, if I stay on this list, I will move away from the double arc, because I think if you're not going with the triple arc, or if you're not going with like the 6-ship list, then you have to add a level of unpredictability to make up for the damage output that you're not putting out, because you're giving up damage output, you're giving out numbers, you're giving out mods, so you have to add a tactical advantage of like, you don't know if I'm going to be over here, you don't know if I'm going to be over there. You guys know I've been testing Sicko out lately. I think I said I'm 6-0 or 7-0 with Sicko on a list, because it adds that, even though it's 5 points, it adds that level of unpredictability, because the 3 banks I can be here, I can stop, I can go 1 forward, or I can go 3 banks either direction, and it makes it really difficult to it puts the pressure on the opponent to um, commit one way or the other, and it's not like I feel like the double arc, the double arc and the triple arc, give your even though you're getting a ton of offense, you're getting a ton of mods. We haven't talked about the token sharing for the 2 agility, for the V19s, or for the Diamond Boron missile guy kickback, Tucker, Contrail on them getting focuses and stuff like that. Like there's more than the token sharing. There's a lot of gimmicks to it, but at least you have a level of predictability. Like you know what you're getting into, so you know whether you should joust or not. You know if you try to go around. Well, you should know. I guess that's what we're talking about today is like how to prepare for those. But I think that's going more into like what I take to counter versus what you're likely to see. I don't think you're likely to see, to your point, Ryan and James, I don't think you're likely to see a lot of people taking less than 2 arcs
Yep.
because
Yeah,
of the value.
Marcel, you'll be the less than 1% at Worlds in that group most likely if you stick with what you got.
Yeah, like I said, I go for a tactical and positioning advantage over just objectively more efficient.
Hmm. So speaking of objectives, so I think this is where we want to move into like breaking down how Republic and some of these common lists in Republic that we're seeing, what they do in assault, chance, salvage, and scramble, and what gives them advantages in those scenarios and what gives them disadvantages. And sometimes it's situational. So I figured each of us probably can take one of these since there's 4 of us. I'll start as an example for assault. So an advantage they have obviously for assault when the satellites are close together to allow the arcs to control that area with the space they take up both medium base size and to contest those assault satellites really well. They are each arc is 2 for contesting an assault satellite. You want to try your best to not clump if you're facing them, clump a whole bunch of them all in the same area because not only will they rack up more points by existing there, take up more space, but they'll also find it easier to because I mean, if there's a tight clump of objectives, you also need to contest that in some capacity. So by you going there and the arcs wanting to go there, you're going to find each other and they're going to shoot you and it's going to hurt because very effective mod modded shots with all the arc sharing and token sharing for defense when necessary. And then when the scrum happens, their arcs are masters of the scrums. They take up their space and you have to bump into them. And range 0 shots aren't as good as modded shots into arcs. So, but what can you do to combat that? How can you make disadvantages? Well, when the satellites are far apart, it's obvious, right? If you can put your objective satellites that you get to put down in spots farther away, it reduces how much of an area the arcs can control and score more and more points. And then taking out their main damage dealers, being which are the Arc 170s. Um, so that and making them not exist there means they don't get to contest those points. So they're high priority targets. Um, when the satellites are far apart, the more common Republic ships can't easily go contest and reach you out there to get them. It gets a situation where only really like SOC Anakin, 7B Anakin, and Contrail are good at like jumping out to far distances and help contest those. But then that means they're not in the middle of the fight, help the arcs burn down or stay or help the arcs burn things down and help them stay alive longer to contest the main sections. So that's anything else you guys want to add to assault for advantage or disadvantages that you can create, advantages that they have, and any disadvantages you can help create to win the game against Republic in assault.
You probably mentioned it. I lost audio for a while, but if when I'm playing against them, is I try to keep one satellite really close to me and then throw the other satellite in the most in the most distant direction, just because generally, especially if you're playing against the 5-ship version, generally they want to stay at some type of proximity to each other. And if you can isolate them and you can make them chase different objectives, then it makes it a little bit easier for you to pick a target and try to nuke it.
And what you're saying by close to you is closer to your deployment zone, and then you throw
Yeah,
them as far off
I'll
away
put
from everything as possible.
yeah, like I'll hang back one of my cheapest ships to just do little circles in by the board edge where I'm playing.
Will, do you want to take chance?
Sure. So with chance, Very similar to Assault, that they are going to want to control the middle of the board, get those arcs in there, start shooting front to back. And it's a little bit trickier because you also only have one place to be, and they know where you have to be to meet that objective requirement. So uh, that you know they're going to be there. They're going to crash through in their deployment, in their setups, into the middle. Be there. Not always turn two, but definitely they'll have like one, maybe two ships in there on turn two, hang back a little bit. But definitely by turn three, they're going to be wanting to put as many of those arcs in the center to almost push you out, so you have no room to even score into the center. Now, range 2 is very big, but that's where you can look at things like rock placements in your own deployments. So big advantage there, because that's where they want to be anyways. In chance engagement, they want to be in the center of the board. So it's just suggesting that they do the thing they want to do anyways. Now, as far as their disadvantages, though, is that they are still slow-moving ships. So once they make that initial pass through the center, it could be difficult for them to pick off some of your more squirrelier ships. Plus, also with their 1 agility, even if they have all these tokens and stuff, they still are very susceptible to losing half points. Even if it's just 2 points around then the center, that can still add up over time if they're not trading particularly well. And I think I'm trying to think of what was with the other archetypes. I honestly, I think the hardest one for this is going to be the 6 ship with those torrents. They can particularly keep that half point threshold very high because of that damage mitigation. Some of the other ones, not so much. The more jousty list will just try to pick you apart as you come into the center as well. But I would say that is their weakness to it, is those half points, which is a great relief for playing against it, that you don't have to necessarily destroy every single arc. You just need to keep up the points pace with them. If they destroy a 3-point ship, you got to make sure you get half points on an arc, and then maybe a Z95 or something at the same time. So that could be a way to kind of slow their pace of the game as far as like how many points they're getting from you. I think in particular, I was going to say it with Assault as well, but in particular with Chance, you have to come from every single angle. Do not frontline joust these guys in Chance. You will not win. You have to come in at different angles, make them choose to either keep going through the middle or start splitting off. And once they start splitting off, that damage potential really decreases for them. They're not passing as many locks. They're shooting a lot more rear arc attacks. So you have to, unfortunately, sometimes you have to just have a single ship in the center. And, well, maybe 2, because if that single ship is destroyed, you could be giving up a lot of points. But my main thing is that you can't fight them for the center. You can't just like cram all of your ships into the center, because they are definitely going to have all of their arcs in the same place. So I have to be a little bit more cagey about how you engage them. Like I said, really come at different angles, really try to force them to where they don't have just an easy pass right through the middle. They have to break an arc off or two to try to pursue your other more elusive targets.
I did want to add, because you brought it up, was because everything is generally slower in some of these beyond your contrails or clicks and Anakin versions that we normally see. Because everything is generally slow or not as maneuverable, as ships starts getting removed from the board, and say a trip arc plus stuff list makes its pass, right? Its general joust pass it goes through. it doesn't have really optimal ways to converge on a target, or stay in the range 2, it's common that, you know, if an arc goes to 4K and then some or a couple of them go to 4K and like there's a torrent or two, or an arc that's almost dead, a torrent that's half, like it's got to be careful what stays in the middle, like you said, for the Republic list, as the other stuff is trying to uh, assess where to point its guns outside of that range 2 zone,
Mm-hmm.
unless they start doing like 2 turn or 3 turn barrel rolls just to stay in there. So if you can
It,
force them to take a path that forces them to leave or chase you outside of the zone and pick off stuff still in the zone, they're not as maneuverable to weave their way back in and out depending on the rock formations.
right. It's something that's similar in Assault as well, but you have to be on the lookout for these arcs, especially like Jag, the lower initiative one, bumping your ships on purpose just to stay in uh, a in the center of the board in an advantageous spot. Oddball is just going to crash into you. He don't care. But the like none of the arcs need to fully complete their maneuvers. They just need to bump into enemies, get that focus, and if it's advantageous to basically stay where they are, whether it's objective point or delaying that K turn, that turnaround one more round, they should and will do that. So it's another reason why uh, you really can't just have a clump of your ships in the center of the board because they can take advantage of that. And now you have nowhere to go. There's only arcs in front of you, so you're stuck in the middle now too, which is probably not going to be as advantageous to your list. But let's keep moving on to the next objective, James.
Yeah, salvage mission or savage mission is most likely what we're going to see for a lot of these Republic lists. Um, but the Republic does get an advantage when they can take the opportunity to take more than one salvage box without being threatened with a big attack. Uh, Also, Oddball having Selfless out there in the field can keep those crits off of his friends to help stop them from taking those crits to lose their crate. So keep an eye out for that if you are trying to uh, push only one crit through on your attacks, and you have Oddball in arc. Oddball can take that crit on one of his 4 shields, or even take it on the hull if you've already gotten him down a little bit to prevent that box from being jettisoned. However, uh, when a Republic list has to decide between picking up a box or having their big modifiers like focuses or that lock with Padme, um, it does bring down their firepower quite a bit. When a If you can get a faster ship to flank or get behind them to pick up those objectives, it may not have as much firepower to help out in taking down the arcs. They can use that to a big advantage, or you can use that to a big advantage to at least score some points while you're dealing with the rest of that list. But I think big takeaways is force them to either make a decision of I'm going to pick up this crate or I'm going to take my offensive and defensive modifiers, or uh, just don't let them get free crates is the big thing. Like don't let them just walk up and take crates and you not punish them for it. So, which usually means that you have to have a way to take your crates and still push out some damage, or just focus on damage.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to stop any list from picking up at least one crate because each person gets to place one crate on their side of the board.
Hmm.
But the key is like if the Republic list is free to pick up 2 crates and you haven't challenged them on that second one to say, hey, if you're going to pick up this crate, you're going to take this damage, or you're not going to have the firepower you want that I'm meeting you with. That's where the problem lies, because then that gives them a free turn for not only another point, but that means next turn when they don't have to pick up the box, they're fully modded, defense and offense that they want, and they're ready to shoot you down, and you haven't tried to pressure them yet. And granted, there's a fine balance between, correctly pressuring that ship that's trying to pick up a box and accidentally ending up in all 3 of the arcs and Padme or whoever and getting shot to death anyway, even without the mod or even with one of them picking up a box, because the ones that want to pick up the box are like Wolf and Jag, because oddballs pull in the crits, and Wolf and Jag can help each other generate at least a lock modded attack.
Yeah, for sure.
Marcel, we got you back?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, he's
The
here.
internet's not being nice.
Oh, no.
It's on and off.
Think it's gonna be nice enough for you to do the scramble section?
Is that what we're on?
Yeah, we're talking Scramble.
Buttons. All right. So first, yeah. So with Scramble, I'm gonna go over what Ryan wrote, because these are Ryan's notes, and then I'll give my 2 cents on it. So for advantage, he said, when the scramble points are closer together, allowing the Republic list to centralize its attack zone. When Anakin isn't being threatened, which Anakin? I'm assuming he's meaning
Any.
Oh,
the
either.
any of them. Okay, isn't being
Yeah.
threatened when he goes in to claim a satellite, while multiple born for this ships are providing tokens for ships claiming. I think that's the biggest one. Like the fact that not just with this one, but also with Salvage, that especially the 6 ship version, they have so many ships that are throwing tokens around, and so many ships to be able to take those actions that it's not a disadvantage for them at all. Like this scramble, salvage, everything except chance is just really good for the Republic. Probably chance is the only one where they're at a disadvantage. But for disadvantages, when the scramble points are further away, forcing the Republic to split. The exception to that rule is when are on the board, they can handle a far-off objective easily. When there's less or no born for this backup for ships that want to claim the satellites. I actually don't think that that's a disadvantage, especially for the 7B Anakin. The 7B Anakin wants to. If you're going 7 points into that, that means you're giving up a 4 and a 3. If you're giving up a 4 and a 3 or a 5 and a 2, for that you probably need that gun. So you're probably you probably want that gun to be engaged. And if it's out chasing if the opponent puts the when you're doing your own side, actually no, you only do it on the other side, right?
Yeah, there's only 2 additional points besides the center that goes out in scramble. You put one on your opponent's side, your opponent puts one on your side.
Yeah. So if you put one, if the opponent puts one all the way on your side, I don't think they're gonna do that. If they do, the only thing that I can think about if they were to do that is if they're playing against another Republic ship and they want you to hang somebody back, or or you're playing against a list that wants to, like purposely, for example, a 4-ship list that all 4 ships are meaningful, and you want to keep one of those 4 ships from playing. But yeah, if you're taking your 7B Anakin to go across the other board, across the other side to claim an objective or to press a button, that gun and that threat is not in the center of the board where it's giving you the most value. So that's probably not where your opponent's gonna put it. But yeah, as far as scramble, I think I'm sure you guys covered it. It's just with all the token sharing, with all the health, with just the sheer number of ships, they're and the amount of natural rerolls that you can get from, especially with the three arcs, passing each other, giving each other tokens. Um, yeah, there's not a whole lot of disadvantage. Maybe if anything, the disadvantage comes if you're playing the lower initiatives, and if if you're playing something like the 5FO or one of these other lists that have 4 or 5 initiative fives, then you do have the ability to press the buttons after them. So I think that's a disadvantage, is just the low initiative of pressing the button first and giving the opponent the ability to just go and reclaim it and just get up on the mission objectives early by simply just moving after you and doing that. So that's one of the benefits just for the higher initiatives. And most of the time, the Republic will have a number of threes or a number of fours that, let's say, you know, the FO is a good list that has 4 or 5 initiative fives that'll be playing together, that can press that button after you and then reposition after they press it, or just be in a good spot to probably survive. I don't know. That's my 2 cents. Somebody else talk.
Yeah. Well, makes sense. That's the majority of our scenario section of that, unless James or Willie have anything else to add. Take that as a
No,
pause, silence, no.
it's very difficult. The what do I want to say? I feel like a lot of these scenarios, assault, not so much chance. It's never a chance, but like salvage and assault, these lists for the Republic have very rigid flight patterns. The arcs, they very rarely can do something fancy. Occasionally, you'll see them like hard 3 bear roll and then like hard 2 the next round. But most of the time, they're not trying to use up those R4Ps early. And Wolf doesn't even have one if he is born for this. So when you can see their deployment, it very much shows you what objectives they can even get to, let alone the ones that they want to do. So hopefully, if you have some higher initiatives, you can go out and look for those advantages in their deployment to get something that they might not be able to. Something like they do ignore that objective you put way far in the back. That could give you time to speed your fast ship up and scramble it instead. So that's I do think that's like one of the general overall weaknesses of the list, especially when it pertains to objectives, is that their like turn 1 and turn 0 is so rigid. I keep like whereas a lot of ships, like you get a bunch of A-wings, they could boost, they could do all these things, double reposition right on your small bases. They can change up their deployment turn 1 and go and break off and do different things that they might not have wanted to do when they deployed. The arcs are going to do this. The arcs are going to do the same thing that they deployed for. So that can try to help you understand what they're doing. It's less of a guessing game for them. If you see an arc lined up against a scramble with a single torrent behind it, you know that one of them's going to rush in and grab it. There's not a lot of... Maybe the Anakins in the list could bring you a surprise, but these clones are not going to surprise you with their turn 1 and turn 2 maneuvers. Very deliberate most of the time on their deployment and their routes to those objectives in the first round. So that's hopefully something that you can take advantage of. But that does kind of tie into the rest of our stuff, Ryan. Turn zero. What other things can you do to gain an advantage in turn zero?
Yeah, so now we're looking at, so we're past the objective part of things, into obstacle placements, a really big one to combat a solid amount of Republic lists, since they generally feature 2 to 3 arcs. What you want to do is you want to crowd the middle of the board. We talked at nauseum how much, like in assault, in chance, like arcs want to control the middle of the board, front back arc shots. They want to take multiple shots, as many as possible. They want to exist in middle. They want to bully you out of it. Well, the best thing to do is to put a bunch of obstacles there that restrict their movement in the middle and make them way more predictable to figure out. So, as an example, I found one of the best obstacle placements for me is basically a triangle where the point of that triangle is pointing at my opponent's deployment zone, being the opponent being the arc player, so that when they're coming in on either corner side, because normally most lists will deploy in one of the two corners in a grouping together, and they'll approach the middle on like an angle, normally like going straight, and then doing like a three bank or something like that, or some variety of that. Well, they're going to be running into uh, a wedge type of wall of obstacles where the point of it's in the middle to make sure the arcs can't approach middle collectively. But they also have a little difficulty approaching from the corners. So it doesn't. We have a picture up on the live stream right now. This, I assume, may be something we can add to our description of the podcasts on the sites that are hosting them. But it doesn't need to be this rigid. It can be a little bit tighter. It can be a little bit closer to the middle, where maybe the two rocks on either side of the middle objective is exactly lined up, or it's closer to their deployment a little bit. But generally, this is about where I put things, where the two side rocks that are forming the base of the triangle are at about range 3 of the board edge, like the edge of the rock, and the rest of the rock is in the middle more. And then the the point of the triangle is also at range 3 from their deployment zone. And usually having the space between every rock, or at least the wedge of that, be about 1.5 ish distance from each other, where two rocks clearly, or two arcs clearly can't fit in a lane of them, and even one may be one will fit, but maybe not all your maneuvers are available to you depending on where you start in your position. Do any of you guys have, I mean, James, from your perspective as an arc player, if you see something like this set up this way across from you, how are you approaching it, or what are some of the difficulties that you know, or how to, what does this cause in your mind when you're deploying after seeing this in the middle of the board?
That means that I will generally go heavy one side and try to come in and have one of the arcs come, like the inner arc, come through the rock between those, uh, between like the closer to me rock and like the center rock, and one of the other ones, to where I'm having my first arc cut in there, and the other one's going faster, cutting in around it as quickly as possible. But that does mean that I have to slow down and use those R4P charges early on like 3 hards and 4 straights. So if you do either way, it forces the arcs to either use resources they don't want to have to use, or come through the rocks, which either way is good for you. But generally, I just go to the outside of them if that happens, and then I'll see if I can uh, finagle a big round one engagement or big first engagement.
Yep. Yeah, it's basically forcing you to have to go fast to get to the middle, right? Because I'm assuming the rocks you would put down as the Republic player, if you're featuring 3 arcs, maybe even 2, but still a bunch of non-boosty, really maneuverable ships, is you're pushing all the rocks that you get to place on your opponent's deployment edge, right? Or the closest rock edge to their deployment. Is that where you would normally put them?
or next, like in my corners. Because if I put them in my corners, then that means they can't put stuff in that corner as well, which means that I at least have some open area right there. But yeah,
Gotcha. So you're burying them in your own corner to restrict maybe some flanks and also just clearly clear out as much of a space as possible that you'll
mhm.
eventually get to.
Yeah, to have little donuts of, guaranteed free space that where I can take either take an arc or take a fast ship. I like dumping them on my side because that leaves me open with more opportunities to 4K. Because that is the worst thing is when you want a 4K and there's a big rock in front of you because you dumped it on their side and it's now in your way of your 4K. That's just my take on it. I hate having to 4K and like there's not room to do it.
That is
Marcel,
true.
what about your perspective
Yeah.
as someone who's been playing the 7B Anakin? That might see this. I mean, so most of the 7B Anakin lists we've seen with 2 arcs. So imagine you're playing 2 arcs. Does this type of rock formation make you happy? Does it make you maybe a little discomfort, but definitely better than a triple arc player? Like what are your views when you see someone place a triangle in the middle against you?
Um, yeah, anytime that I have more than one medium base, it makes you look at the angles and just have a second thought about how you're going to deploy because you just want to for the most part you want to have the option to keep them together, and uh, when they are able to put the objectives in the center, then you're going to have to either like eyeball it so that you're coming right between two of those and then the other one right outside, but you still want to be at close enough range, especially with oddball, to be able to pull that crit um, if you need to. And in a lot of situations, I may end up just splitting the arcs up and not flying them together and just try to converge in the center at like turn 2 or 3. But of course, that's a risk because you end up maybe isolating one of them that they can pick off when it's by itself. So it's a good formation, and I wouldn't say this just only for arcs. Is if you're flying multiple big bases or medium bases, this is generally what you want to do. The only thing that I would probably change, or you might be forced to change from your little triangle that you have there, is the the horizontal bar, or they may not be like lined up to like this because you place one, then they place one, then you place one. But I think more than anything, you just want to make sure that you're taking advantage of your range one template to put them close enough together to where they have to be really good with their maneuvering so they can go ahead and place that. The other part that I'm going to say is you want to make sure that you throw your when you're doing that, you want to make sure that you reach for the not gas clouds to do this because ga- uh, they generally don't care about gas clouds. So if you put a gas cloud there, they're like, oh, I get a freebie. I get to, this is a free space as long as I can shoot past, especially like, throw Jag in front of there where Jag is initiative 3 and you're going to move first and nobody's going to block you on top of that rock. At that point, you don't really care. So if you're going to do that, make sure that you take especially the center one, that you take something that's not a gas cloud to put there. So you put the debris is the best because while a an asteroid might give them double double damage, the stress is probably going to be more because that if they have to fly through it, they're not going to be able to take the focus to pass it off to other people or take it themselves or claim the objective. Um, so playing against the Republic, I would say debris is the best. Asteroids are second best. Gas clouds, you're just giving them free space to fly over stuff with almost no consequence.
Yeah, the only major consequence you can get from that is because you're getting strained. If it's a ship that's oddball or a torrent that wants to born for this, a strained ship that has born for this cannot born for this a token because it's strained. It has to be
Yeah.
unstrained to be able to share a token.
But they can claim an objective. Because even if they roll a hit, they're probably not ionized.
Assuming it's an arc that goes through, yes. It's only on the
Yes,
grid.
yes.
That's
It's
gonna be
and this whole time I was talking about arcs. Like, you're not gonna, people are not gonna put their small base ships through them or try not to. But the arcs is really what you want to disrupt. And gas clouds, they laugh at them for the most part.
sure.
So bring some debris, preferably. I think in most situations, if you're not flying something that takes advantage of gas clouds, then bring debris because debris may not put out the most damage, but it puts out the most control and it puts out the most consequence.
Yeah. My only hesitation on debris right now is the chopper engine upgrade Han Solos can very much handle debris really easily. So, and they just fly right through them and not care.
Yeah,
So
they
I
do the
tend to
same thing with
favor big
rocks.
rocks for me personally. But so overall, no matter what type the arcs and the Republic list may not like, you should still likely be bringing obstacles that benefit your list or don't hurt your list more. Like, it's probably better to focus on your list and what you bring with it because you get to pick 3 obstacles to put on the board. Make sure those don't hurt you as much as they would hurt a potential opponent. So unless James or Marcel, if you have any other rock formations that have given you discomfort in the past for Republic, or will, if you know you've had a game in the past that you found
Uh,
a good rock formation that you're like, yeah, like this worked great against my Republic opponent, other than just like an average triangle or just generally crowding the middle.
the I'll say that when Doug was on, and when we were watching him at the Las Vegas Open, he had a very similar thing to this, but the third one would create an almost wall, a line of obstacles, range one from each other, and that it's similar in theory, but that diagonal line again makes it so the Osiris have to be so deliberate in which lanes they're taking. It's hard to bounce from one lane to another when there's a large rock kind of splitting them, and it forces them to if you do those tight things, you'll force the arcs to have to almost go in a column then through these lanes, and that's an easier way to limit their movement and be able to recognize where they plan on being the following rounds. So same thing, just keep, no matter what you do, keep those obstacles tight. Keep them as close together as you can, and hopefully that's not a disadvantage to your own list.
All sounds good. So I think the final thing we have, besides any other things we might come up with at the end, but target priority. Right, when we go up against these lists, what should we be focusing on shooting first? What needs to be brought down? What is the most dangerous thing against an average list? And personally, to me, I think if you're facing a triple arc in any version, Jag has to go. Jag is the Jess Pava of Republic. It's the thing that can shoot last and can output the most damage because the lock that he can grab, be focused, and just fully modded shot going into an opposing ship. It can drive Wolf with Wolf Pack as well. And because Jag is I3, even though you have Selfless on Oddball to pull some damage and maybe some token sharing from Suborn for this, If you focus fire correctly and just haul off as much damage into Jag as you can, Jag might only shoot once in an entire game. He gets to shoot the first engagement, and because he's I3, there's a solid chance he could be in it killed. Uh, it's too dangerous to leave on the board for too long. He does a ton of damage. If not triple arc, kill the other arcs. Kill Wolf, kill or Oddball, whatever presents itself more. Ideally Wolf, because Wolf does do more damage than Oddball generally over the course of a game. Besides the turns, Oddball gets to bump into an enemy ship and take a lock on someone he didn't bump at range 1, as an example. Uh, but generally, it's take the arcs out. They are the consistent 3-die guns that get to exist on the board. After that, if torrents are in the list, they're a reasonable mid to late game target that is only 6 health on 2 agility and it's all hull. I know, and we've played enough TIE bombers to know that defensive profile is basically the same, other than Born for this help from other ships. And leaving the torrents alone in the back to just provide evades or launch diamond boron missiles or barrage rockets, probably not a good plan if you can just move on to them after the arcs. And then if you have a turreted ship or an opposing I6 ship or ships, you can scare Anakin, either 7B or SOC, a little bit. Whether it's the health profile of the 7B, where it's 3 shields, 3 hull, 2 agility, he can take damage. Just know that if the 7B version or the SOC version have R2D2, the SOC version automatically has R2D2, but if the 7B also has R2D2 Astromech, you have to be aware that if you don't threaten Anakin with lethal amounts of firepower to destroy him, he has a really good way of escaping and regenerating some health back. So always keep that in mind too, that if you're committing to shooting an Anakin, that either the damage is going to stick as long as it's more than 1. But you need to know that in future turns that you could follow up with enough damage to compensate for regen health. Other experiences from you guys, I mean, that's just my notes as to what my target parties would be. You guys also play different lists. Like, my list I commonly play is like 5 ship resistance or rack 3 bombers and a thing, right? Like, those things are just upfront firepower that can bring things down. That's different than what, let's say, like Marcel's doing, or other lists that Will you may have done, or James. What you're trying out is how do your target parties change with lists that you bring?
I think the difference is, do you have enough speed to perhaps, normally arcs start at the corner and they swoop in down the neutral edge and turn into the middle. If you're fast enough, you could potentially fly past them into like the hourglass, especially if you force those rocks where they can't turn in as effectively. Then you might be looking at picking off some of those other ships before you turn in on those arcs. But that is more difficult. You're really going to have a fast turn 1. We're talking like an I5 Dirge, a Kylo Ren of any kind, something that can, a Boy Luke as well, with that attack speed, can grab a loose torrent that was not involved in that kind of initial arc line. But that's still very difficult to try to prioritize anything other than that. Anything other than like basically the lead arc, whether it's Wolf or Jag. I think I tried to take out Wolf, but only because I've been running almost exclusively like I5s. Like if that average of your initiative, if you have a couple of 4s in your squad, say you run like T70s or something, then you almost have to have Jag, which I 100% agree. Like, and Republic players should recognize that and maybe figure out a way to protect him. So that all makes sense to me. Here's a question though for you. Let me bounce it back to you, Ryan. When do we go after Padme? Yeah, 3 arcs Padme. When is the appropriate time to prioritize her?
So throughout an entire game, after you've killed all 3 arcs, probably, to be quite honest. But
Fair.
there are those niche game state situations where either Padme's out of range of born for this, right? Or an arc is already born for this to someone else. Like you need most of those situations end up happening when it's like the messy part of the scrum when things are just bumping into each other. Range 0 attacks are more common, or maybe Padme did a move and just accidentally landed it in front of a bunch of stuff, or some of the stuff that was trying to get to arcs bumped into an arc, but Padme ended up there, so Padme's there to shoot, right? Um, Now normally range 0 on an arc is still a viable shot, but maybe you have 2 or 3 very reasonable shots to put in Padme, and there is no born for this help. She doesn't have the evade. Like, yes, there are situations you can shoot at Padme, but at least on the terms of my target priority board, she is after all of the arcs. Because I feel you weather the storm of her torrents, mitigate it as much as you can by either positioning, making her split fire, maybe her intended target she doesn't have versus what the arcs can shoot. Um, and just because once those torps are gone, like she's there to go run and get objectives because her firepower is just nil basically after the torps.
True. That makes a lot of sense.
I do think that you have to. Well, it depends on your list again. It depends on how fast your list is. But if you're flying, you know, you uh, you flew Kylo, for example. If you're flying Kylo, if you've got a fast ship, especially a fast ship that can hit hard, a Vader, whether it's the Defender Vader or the Boy Vader, Kylo, or any of these big ships, I think there's in most situations you are able to spook um, Padme. I think most players. I'm not gonna say all, but I think most players have a perception that once Padme gets pointed at out of arc, Padme disappears. And in a lot of situations, Padme does disappear after like 2 rounds of fire if you're able to stick somebody that does real consistent output. Uh, 2 turns in a row with 8 dice. Like it Padme can disappear. Passing focuses to her doesn't matter when she rolls 1 or 2 blanks. Um, so I do think that if you have a fast enough ship that can kind of corral Padme, that doesn't mean you have to kill Padme, but Padme is easy to get spooked, and then it makes the opponent kind of not put Padme, not let Padme do what he wants to do, which is basically um, soak up damage or point the arc to where the arcs point her arc to where the arc 170s are pointing at to shoot to kind of lower the damage output that they're receiving and maximize the damage that they're putting out. So if there's been many situations, I'm not going to say many, but there's been plenty of situations where I shoot my fast ship, whether it's Anakin or some other fast ship, across the board, like 5 forward, boost, barrel roll, then 5 forward again, just to let Padme point and shoot, actually get a torpedo off. But at that point, Padme is looking over there, and the arcs are not getting the support from it anymore. Um, so anyway, because in most situations, a 2 or 3 agility ship with 4 health, or with 3 agility ship with 3 health, they can. It sucks, but you can tank a single modded proton torpedo most of the time. Like you'll lose 1 or 2 shields on average. Like it's not that. It's scarier than it sounds. James.
Yeah, I think Padme is just almost all the time a trap to shoot early, because that single-mounted proton torpedo is never going to do 4 hits, and if it does, he's spiked. And even if they do manage to get both of the proton torpedoes off, which is usually unlikely to get both of them off in one game, uh, it it's really not going to do that as much of an impact as the 3 arcs on the table are. So and those 3 arcs don't have 2 agility, an evade token, and 2 or 3 born for this. So I think definitely taking out the arcs first, and once you've dealt with that, you can start taking a look at Padme.
Makes sense to me.
Well, anything else on the Republic side we wanted to go over tonight? 'Cause I think that's all I had noted. But if there's other parts to this puzzle we wanted to fill in to help anyone and all of our community go up against and plan and prep for public, average, or common ship archetypes. Any other side notes?
Uh, I could ask you guys. Um, so we've been thinking of like silver bullets for whatever it's on or rack or whatever the case may be. Is there a silver bullet upgrade that you could throw into your list that could help you against these arcs? I know mag pulses have been really helpful for me, but against the arcs, you really can only mitigate so much, and a singular damage, that crit better be underneath the shields, right, for it to be extremely effective. Is there some sort of upgrade or cards that we should view? Well, I guess all upgrades are cards. I was going to say upgrades are pilots that we could be looking for to help your squad get over some of the challenges that the arcs and the Republic can bring.
Plasma torpedoes with their extra
sure.
shield effect, and not having to only having to deal 2 hits to get the extra shield effect, are very great budget proton torpedoes that can't be selfless.
True.
Or unlikely to be selfless because you have to roll a natural crit. So those are great. I would say also proton cannon and heavy laser cannon are really, really great ways to pump out some extra damage that, as we saw at LVO, if you're able to make the arcs come through a very specific lane, like Doug was able to consistently with those with his FO, if you can force them to come through a specific lane and line up that heavy laser cannon, even on a ridiculous ship like what was it?
It's Lieutenant Gaelic.
Gaelic. Even on a most ridiculously not great ship as Lieutenant Gaelic.
So, small aside, James.
3.55. How is that not a great ship? 3.95 with a 4-eye bullseye.
Yeah, but it comes out with a 2
give you
point.
one small aside. In the 4 games that I played over the weekend, I shot a total of 6 heavy laser cannons.
Oh, I know. It's great.
One of them was the proud sloop into a heavy laser as well.
Yeah, proud sloop. Oof.
Yeah, so it's viable. You could do it.
I know. I think I'm not talking bad. I'm talking good on it. I'm talking good on it.
You literally said a not good ship.
Well, like
initiative 5 with a 4-eye bullseye.
Gaelic might not be the best person for it, but
yeah,
the T-70s, things like that, things that normally could equip it.
Oh yeah, especially like Snap or somebody that can also get like any kind of mods on those heavy laser cannons as well. Like where if you can double mod it, is even better. So yeah, any kind of like bullseye weapons that are normally harder to line up, those arcs with those medium bases and predictable flight patterns may be a little bit easier to line up.
I guess we throw a Procket in there too, though.
We could throw Procket in
Sure.
there.
It's in the same line of
you-
thinking.
it is same line of thinking. It may be a little bit harder to land the Procket just because it's 1 to 2.
Sure.
Put it on
but
Reimer.
Yeah,
Put it on.
range 3. Let's go.
Does it? I thought it was only the
Nope,
No.
doesn't care.
Range
Missile or
front arc.
torpedo.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Okay.
a Procket on Reimer can be 0 to 3.
Yeah, 0 to 3. Let's go. Yeah.
I
Because
hate
it's a
that.
secondary
Wow.
weapon, you can actually mod it at 0 2.
Yeah,
know.
spinning that focus on 5 dice, range 0. That's a blocker.
With,
that Reimer's a
with,
blocker.
with like Jonas rerolls.
Nah, you don't need it.
Nah. Just
All
roll
right.
tank, easy. Or have Ruthless. That's also good too.
Helpful.
Oh,
Helpful.
Yeah.
No stat salvo though, sadly. Boo.
Oh, is that so?
Ryan, Marcel, got any other silver bullet upgrades that we could throw into our squads to help out? Maybe not silver bullets, but something that might help out, mitigate the challenges.
I'll let Marcel go first because I have sort of a roundabout closure way in this section here.
Perfect.
No, as far as cards go, I don't think so. You know, beef. Maybe just in list building, not necessarily in specific upgrade building, but just list building. Know that you're going to be facing this. So, you know, I think Ryan mentioned it earlier that you want to make sure that if your list has the potential to be able to kill an arc in 1 or 2 rounds. If it doesn't, then you better have like something else up your sleeve to where you know you're not going to be the one that's getting nuked, because they have the potential to kill you in 1 round. So if you're not able to kill them in 1 or 2 rounds, then you have to have something up your sleeve to where you understand that you're going to be at a deficit and you're playing some other game. Which again, it's possible. You can play a different game. You know, you can play a arc dodging other game that you're doing objectives and doing other things. But yeah, so T-70s are good against it, not just because of the heavy laser cannon, but because they 7 health with 2 agility versus 9 health with 1 agility. The variance can end up in your favor, and then you're putting out you're losing a shield per shot, and they're losing 3 shields per shot or something like that. But yeah, nothing specific. Practice. I think that's the main one. If you haven't played against arcs a lot by now, then I don't know what game you've been playing.
Something wholesome.
Yeah, like I don't know what you've been doing.
I know. I think it was Zutano said that they played a tournament that had no arcs in it. What a world! What a world to be in.
Stark contrast from the last tournament I played at, Crossroads, where like I played Republic 4 out of my 5 games.
Yeah, what was the LVO, like 6 out of the top 8 were Republic?
6 out of the top 8.
So. Yeah.
Yeah, cut was filled with.
But there was only like less than 10% of the field was Republic, though.
Well, 6 out of 8 Republic made the cut, and 6 out of 8 Republic were in the top 8 or something like that. Like, it was some weird number, but yeah, a lot of Republic. So if you haven't flown against Republic by now, you are in a hole somewhere. Get out of your
go
hole
get your
and
reps.
go play.
Yeah.
Go play against them.
So, this is. You got to be careful, I'll say, when we're talking about the tech or slight silver bullet aspect. I agree. It's good to highlight these so that if you already planned on bringing these in your list, you need to take advantage of them. If you have HLC on snap, you should be trying to line that up against the arcs, even if it means closing your foils, do snaps, boost, barrel roll, focus. R68 gets you rerolls plus the focus on the shot with HLC. Bam, there you go. If you have Malrus with Mag Pulse, make sure you take advantage of that Mag Pulse in as best a way as you can to mitigate the damage incoming to you, while not just putting Malrus in front of everyone and expecting her to live when you take a lock and not an evade. Like, she can still die. When you have jam stuff like Wilo still on FON, like to backline some of those. Like Wilo's got speed, he can go back and backline some of those torrents while getting rid of their evades and start chipping those away, and then curve back in on the arcs. You have overbearing crit mechanics where you have Boy Vader who could have marksmanship plus advanced targeting computer plus just rolling 4 dice sometimes to just you throw so many crits at something that just one selfless isn't going to help all the hull that's on an arc, as an example. So it's good to highlight some of these things, but I don't think you should ever, because as a reminder, based upon the numbers we've seen about how popular Republic is in all its forms, you might see Republic just once or twice in 10 rounds of Swiss. So should you be bringing stuff specifically to tech against them? Probably not, but you should know how to use your tools that you have available to you and which ones are going to give you the advantage when you face them.
True. Very true. Similar with
If
like
you make it into the cut, you'll see them. So you may only see
Well,
them once or twice in
when-
Swiss.
you'll see them when it
You will
matters.
you'll see them in the cut. So if you're getting deep into the cut, you'll see them because they're
Can't
gonna
tell
be
if that's Marcel betting on the recent trends or just betting on himself or both.
No,
there.
both.
I am not sure that I'm flying Republic. Actually, I'm waiting for Endor because I think Endor is gonna have some nice toys. But
Okay.
but yeah, I there's going to be just history says that there will be arcs in the cut. You will see them in the cut, and not only in the cut, you will see them in the rounds 7, 8, 9, or how many rounds are there? 10 total. Yeah, you'll
10
see them in
rounds.
10
those.
rounds of Swiss.
Yeah, you'll see them in those battle rounds. 7, 8, 9, 10. You're gonna see that they're going to be there. So
Yeah.
prepare for them.
I mean, we talked about it. I think one of the biggest advantages that a lot of the triple arc lists have, and even especially in the 6-chip versions, which are getting a little more highlighted. I don't know if it's technically popular because they are just performing well in qualifiers and in large populated sort championships. They are pretty good across almost every single scenario except chance because they share tokens, because there's 2 to 3 medium base ships for assault, because they have selfless for the crate pickups, and they have extra bodies to hang back and pick up a crate, right, while the arcs go shoot stuff. They're not weak in more than one objective, and even it's not like they have a bad time at chance. It's not great for them because they can't score extra points with their objective control that they have, but they can still bully you pretty hard if you show up in the middle with them.
Very true. Very true. Well, any closing thoughts on Republic? Anything we might have missed?
I don't think so. I would put it out to, as we do these sort of comb overs of these factions and archetypes, it'd be good to hear from the community in the respond to GSP section of our Discord to share your experiences of what's been successful with you against arcs, or what things maybe you disagree with, and just see how the discussion rolls around, because we surely don't have all the answers, but we think we formulated some good guidelines.
Very true. Plus, like I said, we plan on let's just lock in FO next week. So if you have any questions about facing FO, you're like, these things are jamming the heck out of me. Definitely throw those questions in there too. Maybe we can answer them directly. Give us a uh, a feel for how you guys as players are reacting to these different factions. But all good things on the Discord, the discussion there. We try to keep it optimistic and positive, as I think everyone's pretty excited for Worlds going in, seeing everybody, especially the international community. Oh, we never get a chance to see them, and it really shows their dedication. I don't know how they get the wife points to be like, we're traveling across the world for a whole week, but somehow they're so dedicated that they come out, and that's very exciting. We're here spoiled. James, you're coming from Utah, but we're spoiled here in the Midwest that we don't have to travel as far for these major events like Worlds. So, very exciting stuff. We do have like some channels about the 2024 Adepticon too. If you got any questions, if you want to meet up, get some pizza, some Giordano's, that's something you could post in there too. Really love to see that community engagement, especially if you're traveling. You didn't bring a squad mate or something with you, and you're looking for people to hang out with. There's resources there as well. Now, anything else to end the discussion with for tonight? Okay.
I'm all good. I guess it's Supreme Leader time next week.
Yeah, we'll be talking Kylo. Which version of Kylo is the scariest? It's probably the Whisper, but the Silencer is troublesome, to say the least.
Spoiler alert, to me, scariest the Silencer. More popular is the Whisper version.
Yeah, there was a game or two, I think it happened in 2 games, where the 5 forward boost bear roll and then instinctive aimed a torp into something turn 1. They didn't see it coming. So very, very scary. We'll have to hold off on that discussion till next week. But yeah, stay tuned. We're going to be going through those other factions, FO and Resistance. We're probably going to group Scum and Separatists together, so I'm not sure how much we could talk about that. But maybe we'll find some resources in there. So definitely stay tuned. Of course, everyone's going to be waiting. I believe it's the 23rd, February 23rd is the
That's
street
what the
date.
website says.
Okay, we'll be pressure that F5 refresh. Try to see would those points drop. We'll be very excited to see. Wild guesses. We'll end on a wild guess for the I6 Defender. Is that Jendon or Yor? I forget which one. Jendon?
Wild guess in terms of what?
What's their point cost? What are they dropping at? I'm
The
gonna go a solid 8 points. 1 point less
7.
than Defender Vader.
I say they keep them 7 with Rexler and the rest of them.
Okay, it's as good as a full throttle Defender. Okay. Wild speculations, Ryan.
He doesn't get the free evades, right?
No, he does not.
Okay, I'm gonna change it. I'm gonna say 0.6. They keep them 6.
Whoa!
Without that free
Okay, bold
Free
claim
target lock and
there.
all that, yeah. So I'm gonna say 6.
Man, you'll let me have him at 6 and be able to put him next to Vader and then still have 8 points?
Yep,
No.
you got him.
I hope not.
Sounds like I suddenly became an Empire player.
What's your wild guess, Ryan?
I think Yor has a good chance to be 6.
Mine?
I don't know about Jendon though. Jendon seems like a 7 range, not 8. 8's like
No,
that's
8.
way too high.
Get him up here. You take like 6 actions and you take 4 actions and 2 shots in a round. Get those points up. James, you get her way in?
No, 7. Do not.
Boo. Make this
Do
thing
not-
8.
Oh, please, for the love of all that is holy,
No.
do not make it 8.
Yeah. I
Look,
think you can still
these are
fit the other
fun
2.
Or do not make it 6, and do not make it 8.
I'll be less concerned if he's 8 than if he's 6, I think. Like, if he shows up at 8, whatever, I guess I don't play him. Maybe next time, buddy. But 6, it's like, I got a squad painted for Worlds that's not Empire. I guess I might not be flying that.
Yeah, I'm trying to think
Let's try
of. At 6, you could go.
You could do
Defender,
currently, it's
X-wing or X1, Vader, and then 2 bombers as well, and another
so
ship.
if it's
That's
6
crazy.
points, right? You do 6-point Jendon, 6-point Vader. You're at 12.
12.
You could do Soon Tier at 5 right now. The custom,
Gross.
not even knowing what the other one is going to be, and then a 3-point Tomax. Sounds terrifying.
Ew. Well, we'll see. We'll be excited when those points drop. I will do a lot of first impressions on it, so I'll be looking forward to that. That's like I said, after the 23rd. Is that Tuesday? No, I'm looking at the wrong month, aren't I? That's a Friday. We only got one weekend to test it. Then we'll be able to give you some first impressions on it. Other than that, I'm excited for Worlds. It's going to be the highlight of the year. Let me tell you. Very excited to meet everybody again. Stop by the booth. If we don't have headphones on, come talk to us. Headphones on though. Let the man cook. Anyways, let's get out of here. Thanks everybody for watching at home, listening. If you're on the podcast, from everybody here at Gold Squadron, stay safe, stay smart. Gold Squadron out.
Thank you to ISO, Danko, Baffle, Trojan, Prophet, Shadow, Tycho, Spice, Raider, Lancer, Fallen, Row 6, 626, Chief, and J List, our Grand Admiral patrons. And all of our Gold Squadron patrons and community members, thank you for your support. Gold Squadron out.